Good evening, Des Moines. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program, broadcasting to you from the Northside Studios, webcast1live.com. This is Lefty. As always, we are bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate, and across the table, he's down, but he's not out. Doc Petrosh. Doc, what is happening?
You know, not a whole lot. Lefty and I have been just trying to decide how we can make the show better. And
with us both still being on
yes, because our idea is to kick the other one off. You know, it'd be a lot better if you weren't talking.
I know.
It'd be a lot better if you weren't talking.
I say that to you at least 6 times a day.
Anyway.
And his response is always, I appreciate that, but what do you think about this idea for Tuesday?
Yes.
You should not be there.
Yes, that's right. So we've been talking, and so Lefty's been doing a little thinking outside the box, and he said, well, what if you pared the show down to a half hour and you made more focused on something?
On one or two things as opposed to
one or two things.
Yeah.
So we're going to experiment for the next 29 minutes. We're going to try to remain focused. I'm not sure that's going to work because Maddie's always trying to refocus us too, and that doesn't work either. And then, of course, my brother Joe gets in on it. So we're going to give that a shot. So instead of the throat clearing and getting ready, what do you think of South Carolina?
Oh, man, I got to say, by way of just this primary is becoming more. It was always going to be interesting, I think, and when there's an open primary, when the president has given up his second term, and we've got two parties competing, it's always more interesting, obviously. But this one, man, I'll tell you what. I wonder. Let's go from the broad takeaway. The broad takeaway, huh? Okay. Aside from the fact, we'll get to Jeb Bush in a second. That's the big news. But the broad takeaway. You guys are becoming dangerously close to nominating a Donald Trump for the presidential nomination. Well, I mean, what do you? Am I wrong?
Well, for the first time ever, I have seen an electoral map laid out about how Trump is almost, if he. When's the Super Tuesday? Next week?
March 1st.
March 1st?
Yep.
If Donald Trump, if he just wins half the states next week, has an almost unstoppable margin.
I'll tell you what.
That's the electoral college thing I saw.
If we were really good at this, thing that we're doing, the show that we're doing, we'd have had Maddie pull up clips of us from just last June.
Talking about
how it's never going to happen. It's just the people are going to they're going to come to their senses, and he's popular now just because he's the one saying stuff. It's I know that's kind of a crazy thing to say after 3 voting contests. I think the Republicans vote in Nevada this weekend, right? There's the Nevada caucus for the Republicans is this weekend, and the Democrats vote in their primary in South Carolina this weekend too, I think, isn't it? Am I right about that? 27th?
I think so.
Yeah, because it flip-flops in the parties for Nevada and South Carolina. So it's going to be interesting to see how Donald Trump does in a caucus state that's not good. I shouldn't say good. Nevada seems to be decent at caucusing, but is not as experienced as other states like Minnesota, Iowa, so forth. So to see if he can kind of continue this momentum, and I'll tell you know what? I'll tell you something. As weird as the Donald Trump campaign has been so far, at least these second 2 nominating contests. Iowa Republican caucuses are always kind of weird. They seem to be outliers. At least they have been over the last couple of cycles for you guys. But it does kind of appear that the Republicans are doing their classic fall in line dance, doesn't it?
Well, yes, yes, it does. And here's it. One. First, let's be straightforward here. The difference between Sanders supporters and Trump supporters is not a lot. You hear a lot of Trump supporters saying if he doesn't make it, I'll support Sanders, and vice versa. I have that conversation a lot with those supporters. Number 2, I'm pretty sure what I should have done is caught a hint when a couple of weeks before this whole fiasco went off, that they started talking about, oh my goodness, Jeb Bush is just blowing his donors' money. Just all kinds of bad things about Bush, which you really hadn't had.
Yep.
You hadn't had that. I should have known right up front that they were making a deal, cutting a deal with Rubio. Because there's Jeb Bush saying, I suspended my campaign. Wow. That was right out of the blue. You talk to some of the people involved with this campaign, turns out that he had talked to his people about suspending it prior to the election.
Prior to South Carolina?
Prior to South Carolina.
That seems odd to me. Well, I mean, okay.
Well, look at this.
Yeah.
Why would he's actually did better in South Carolina than he had anywhere else. Why would you suspend your campaign on the day that you've done the best? If your goal is to get to a brokered convention, well, the powers that be sat him down and said, we can no longer support you because you're not doing as well as Rubio over here.
Well,
and suddenly the entire GOP establishment swooped in behind him.
We had no delegates. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Republicans in most states are still going winner take all, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And please, somebody correct me, because that's how it used to be. I thought there was a change this year, but where there's more proportional delegates in the Republican side. But the Republicans have always been winner take all in a lot of the states throughout the country. So you're right. If Donald Trump wins a few of those, he's going to rack up a bunch of delegates in a hurry. Jeb Bush, you can't continue to come in 4th, 5th, 6th place in contest after contest and expect to remain viable. But I remember hearing that. Also, he could not seem to get his brain wrapped around the expectations game. So people ask him about what are you going to do after South Carolina. Well, I think that we're going to do pretty well in South Carolina. We're going to do better. You're pulling 5th right now. Yeah, we're going to do better than 5th. Well, now, I mean, your brother won it in 2000. A lot of vets there that love your dad. The GOP establishment in South Carolina has always been a friend of the Bushes, and now you're saying, well, we're going to do better based on what? And just now, if you don't, it's a no-brainer that he had to get out.
Well, part of the problem was he tried to distance himself from his brother's policies, and it's a tough sell. Here you are getting scoriated by the media, and you're trying to get positive media traction. So obviously he had to go back a little bit. Well, hold on. You just abandoned your brother? If you're willing to abandon your brother for this, what else are you willing to do? Right? That's really the flavor.
Well, no, they just don't like the name. I mean, he always said that, well, he didn't abandon us. He loved his dad, loves his brother, and George W. Bush kept us safe. So, I mean, he held...
But he did say, well, there's a lot of mistakes made. You know,
the war in Iraq, But you kind of have to now.
Well, no, you don't. Not if it's your brother. I mean, this is part of the thing. You need some loyalty, and that's smacked of it. You know, he's being a little bit disloyal. The second thing is there was GW getting up there, gave a rousing speech. The entire auditorium is shaking and quaking and going great, and then Jeb gets up there and everybody gets quiet. Well, you have to be able to motivate what little you have. And he wasn't able to do that. He never came out.
Yep.
And it wasn't until he started taking pot shots at the other Republicans that things, and that didn't even turn around for him. He needed to come out, make his own statement, say, you know what, you might think I'm a moderate. I'm all right with that. I don't think we should be doing these things. I don't think we should. And I also don't think that these guys over here have the answers. If he'd have positioned himself as a moderate that says the way the Republicans are doing it isn't working and I'm willing to do it differently, he might have had a better shot.
Well, what you're seeing, and it goes... We're talking more about the Republicans because neither one of the Democrats running for the nomination so far have exhibited much of a sense of humor. I mean, they do their obligatory Saturday Night Live stuff and whatever, but you've seen on the Republican side that unless you've got the Christian base behind you, some of the more humorless Republican voters, in my opinion, you need a sense of humor. And Jeb Bush did not have a sense of humor. I mean,
it didn't come across.
I heard some of those, some of the comments in W's speech, and man, that guy is still funny.
Oh yeah,
he's still funny. Yep.
So we've come up against our first break. We remain reasonably focused. We want to thank all of our sponsors. We'll be back right after the break, guys, by the way. You know, we could be so focused we could do the show in a minute. We could do that. We're going to be back right after this break. We want to thank all of our sponsors, Bertrosian Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, Halo Capital at Des Moines InterestrateS.com, Des Moines Anesthesia at 515-574-6442. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back right after this break.